Folks, welcome back to another episode of The Fallen Badge. Our episode today is going to be the murder of Trooper Jimmie Linegar, Missouri Highway Patrol. Now, Trooper Linegar, he'd been with the Missouri State Highway Patrol for about 4 years. Now, prior to that, he'd been with the Lebanon Police Department for about 5 years. So he had been the police for a while. Now, he was married and he had a son and a daughter. Now, he was assigned to Troop D, which I think their area back then covered that southwest portion of Missouri down near the Arkansas border. Now, we're going to be talking about an intersection, US Highway 65 and Missouri State Highway 86. Now, that's near the little town of Ridgedale, Missouri, and we just a rock's throw away from the Arkansas line. And then the fella that's going to be mixed up in all this stuff, he's like so many of them we have to talk about. There just ain't much good in him. It's April 15th, 1985. Trooper Linegar and Trooper Hines are working together. Now, they're in one-man cars, as troopers usually are. Now, they're having lunch that day. They were trying to decide what they were going to do that evening. So they decide they're going to do something that they call a spot check. Now, what that means is they're going to pick out a location and they're just going to check for violations on vehicles. So they decided they were going to go down on US Highway 65 and State Highway 86, and they were going to set up there and just check vehicles. Now, usually when they did these spot checks, they did them out in the rural part of their area. So that's what they did. Now, what they're doing is when they're stopping the cars, they're just looking, see if the plate's good, check the license of the driver, see if there's any violations, obvious violations, just to be seen. Write a few tickets, few warnings, and that's what they were going to do. Now, this particular day, Trooper Hines is not wearing his vest. Now, back in this day and time, the troopers had their vest. If they wore one, they put it on the outside of the uniform, which if you look nowadays, we've went back to that. Officers now wear their vest on the outside. It's more comfortable. Now, Trooper Linegar, he had his vest on. Trooper Hines did not. Said it was too warm that day. Now, I don't know how they configured themselves when they were standing there at the road. I'm pretty sure my understanding is that both their cruisers were parked on the side of the road, as you see in the illustration. Now, how they were standing, I'm not sure. I don't know if both of them stood out towards the center of the roadway, or if both of them were standing closer to the curbside, or they may even have been configured where one was out towards the middle of the road and the other one closer to the curb. So I just put them all in there, figuring I'm sure it was one way or the other. Now, if they were doing just one car at a time, then one trooper could be out in the middle and one to the curb, and that way while one's talking to the driver, the other can walk around and check the rear of the vehicle for the tag. Now, out west in Idaho, there were some neo-Nazis. They had their little club, and their club was into bank robberies and extortion and murder. Pretty well anything violent and bad, that's what they did. Well, eventually the federal government got enough evidence on them and indicted about 23 of them. Now, amongst those ones that got indicted was the fella that's part of this story here. Now, during the roundup, they didn't get him because he was already on the road. He was coming back east. Now, I'm not sure exactly where he was going. I'm sure it said somewhere in the resource material, but I just probably missed it. But anyways, now he's not getting on the interstate. He didn't want to be that obvious, so he's taking the back roads. And one of them back roads he's taking is Highway 86. Now, Highway 86 runs a pretty good ways. Now, in this van that he's got, it's a brown and tan van, he's got enough weapons in there and ammunition to overthrow a small country. And that's not even counting the fact he's named in the indictment, federal indictment. So there's all kinds of reason for him not to want to get caught with a van full of weapons and a federal indictment with his name on it. So now it's getting to be middle of the afternoon, and a brown and tan van, it's coming down 86 eastbound. Now, Trooper Linegar, he walks up to the van, gets it to stop, and is talking to the driver. Now, Trooper Hines, he's back towards the rear of the van. Trooper Hines would say later, said the conversation between Trooper Linegar and this fella in the van was taking a lot longer than most of the conversations that day, so he figured there must be something going on. Well, then Trooper Linegar tells the driver to pull the van over to the side of the road. Now, Trooper Linegar, he gets the fella's ID and he walks back to the first cruiser, which happens to be Trooper Hines, and he gets in there and he runs the fella's name, checks the tag. Now, the name on the driver's license was Matthew Mark Samuels, which is definitely something that only a neo-Nazi would find humorous, since he's using three names associated with the Bible, and since neo-Nazis are prone to use a teaching of the Bible and intertwine it with their beliefs. which don't seem to go hand in hand with the Bible, but I think you can take the Bible and twist it around and make it whatever you want it to be, I guess. Well, anyways, so the information comes back, and it says that this fella with this Oregon driver's license said he's possibly got a warrant. And the warrant's for some fella that uses this same name as an alias. And they said it's a weapons violation. Now, what a coincidence. So now Trooper Linegar, he walks back up to the van. Trooper Hines goes around on the passenger side. Trooper Linegar, he's talking to the driver. Now, Trooper Hines said later he could hear the conversation. Trooper Linegar asked the driver, "Is this your van?" And the driver says no. Wants to know whose van it is, and the driver doesn't know. Says it's a friend, but he can't remember his name. And then that's when Trooper Linegar told the driver to step out of the van. Well, now the driver of the van, our boy from Idaho, he knows trouble now, because he knows that the police are asking him to get out of the van. It's getting ready to go bad on him. So Trooper Linegar, he steps back as the door's opening up, and our suspect steps out with a little short-barreled, small, semi-automatic weapon. May have been fully auto. Either way, it was some type of a machine pistol or some other type rapid firing weapon, and small enough he could step out with it not get caught up in the door or the roof of the vehicle. Any event, when he steps out, he opens up on Trooper Linegar. Now, he hits Trooper Linegar 11 times. Now, 9 of those rounds hit him in the vest. And the vest stops. 9 rounds. But now Trooper Linegar, he gets to turns to his right, and it exposes the left part of his body as he's trying to get to cover. Well, now, this vest here had no side panel protection. And as we've seen in other episodes, even if you have a full wraparound vest, you're still in trouble when you turn your side. Now, round number 10 and round number 11, they hit him in the side and go through his body. Now, during all this shooting, Trooper Hines says he doesn't even remember being shot. But at some point during this shootout, Trooper Hines is hit at the base of the neck on the right side, right bicep, and right hip. And now this fella, he takes off on foot. Now, I don't know which direction he went. You would think if he come out from the driver's door and he hit the woods, it'd been easier just to run across the road and run northbound into the woods. That's what I'm figuring he did. But he may not have. Now, he could have easily went back around the front of the van and run southbound into the woods. Either way, he takes off. And we got 2 troopers shot to pieces. Well, now they fly Trooper Linegar to the hospital in Branson, Missouri, and he later dies. Now, Trooper Hines, he survives his gunshot, and he's able to come back to work. Now, it took him 6 days on this manhunt to find this fella, and he had worked his way back north. They caught him up at city of Forsyth, in a park. It's called Shadow Rock Park. And now they put him on trial, and I'm not going to go into that trial and all that. It's just safe to say that the fella admitted he'd shot both troopers, but he did it because he was isolated as a child. So he'll be spending the rest of his life in a prison in Missouri. And now Trooper Linegar, his son, would later become a trooper in Missouri, carrying on the good work his daddy was doing. Just sorry his daddy is not down here on earth to see what his son and his daughter have done. But he's looking at them. He just ain't down here with us to do it. Trooper Jimmie Elliott Linegar. End of watch, April 15th, 1985.